So I think the only thing that is interesting in here, in his August report, is he indicated that the Main Street project was going well, but in the next month, so September, Main Street project, all services are hooked up. We're operating off the new mains at this point. Paving is, more pavers are scheduled to come in on the 17th to begin milling and paving the cross trenches in phase 1. So they're kind of in a holding pattern right now. Everything is up and running, but the state requires 30 days of settling time for all the trenches before they can come in and take that base coat out and then put it back to a finish coat. So that's where they're up to, and they're actually well ahead of schedule, and I would anticipate they'll be done, well, you know, there'll be some cleanup stuff, but all the temporary water's been taken apart. No, I think the project's gone well overall. Yeah? Okay, did you have anything else? I'm sorry? Just what you see is what you get in those phases. They were able to stay in or near the shoulder with very little disturbance, and they that's finish coated right there through this intersection, except for the cross trenches.
Phase 2 will be the last. That's from Pleasant to Parkside. That's all just temporary paving, and they have to wait the 30 days settlement to do the final paving in there.
But we actually made out really well with that, not having to go to the center line. I mean, it's a lot of money in the paving.
Yeah.
So
that's money we won't have to spend.
Yeah.
We ended up with just a 250-foot section where they were close enough to the center line that we're going to have to go to the center line.
Right.
But it's much less than we anticipated. We expected the whole project to be to the. The best of my knowledge, Main Street's on a 10-year rotation as far as paving goes. So it was done maybe 5 years ago, so in another 5 years, they'll come in and do another overlay. And whether or not they'll cold plane it and overlay it or just overlay it, you never know with them. They change it.
Even after they ground it, I remember a few years ago, they went down through it and kind of...
Yeah, they milled certain sections of it, but not the whole thing. Just areas where it was, you know, they go by curb line, and as you know, your curb doesn't show much curb. So in those sections where it was really too high, they cold planed all that, but they left the rest of it alone. Yeah. No? Not at all.
Well, of the total amount, that was based upon the quantities that Underwood had, and they're going to end up with less quantity, particularly on the paving.
That's not bad. So a couple of things that we're going to discuss as a semi-board. John's not here, but we'll assume he's on board with some of it. One is that we had that meeting back in a couple of weeks ago with the engineers and DES and the hydro guy Barry and the hydro guy Emery and Garrett. And there was some conversation regarding still coming to a consensus as to where we go with respect to Colby Point. And I don't think anything came out of that meeting that we didn't already know, and there's certainly no conclusions. I think the next best thing that we're going to look at is, after listening to them the other day, is probably to have Emery and Garrett and Barry Miller, who's the well pump guy, look at doing what Dan talked about from Emery and Garrett, maybe some seismic testing out there to see whether or not we're actually in the best part of the field. Of course, to the best of our knowledge, we are in the best part of the field. I mean, that work was done 30 years ago. But as he did say, there is a little bit more modern technology that might help us along a little bit. So he and Barry were going to put together a proposal as to what we might be able to look at out there. And so that's going to be probably our first step, and that would require having that information from them in order to continue with the budget process for next year. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that, or you... So that's where we are with respect to Colby Point. You know, we believe we can operate within the maintenance easement that we have, within the footprint that we have, and that's all something that we can just do via notification. We don't need permission to do that. But anything out there that, you know, you probably heard some of the stuff at the meeting if you were here, anything that's outside of that square, rectangle, whatever we have out there on the point, and the 10-foot road easement is all outside of our easement, and we'd have to have some more negotiations with, you know, Cotton and Company. So that's the direction we're headed with Colby Point, and I think that that's one of the things that we have to find out whether that's worth spending any money on before we go any further. I was kind of hoping we'd come to some conclusion the other day, but I don't think that they all have enough information to make that decision as a whole. I certainly know the state doesn't. Emery and Garrett, I think, has a good feel for it. And I think they're going to find that after they look at the test borings that were in and around because the whole point was test bored when we did it. And this area that we're in right now is the only area that had any decent material that you could put a well field in. So I doubt that they're going to recommend spending money on reboring what's out there. They'll probably look at the coring information that we had from the early 90s and probably come to the same conclusion that where we are is the best area. Now, whether that's being utilized as efficiently as it can be, or if there's anything else we can do to the wells to make them more efficient, hopefully that comes out of that. So I'd say something came out of that meeting. At least we have some direction on where to go. And I don't know what the end result of that will be. I'm hoping that there's some answer. They don't seem to be super positive that there's any silver bullet or you're going to get this huge amount of water, but you could probably reclaim some of the capacity. I doubt you'll ever get to where Andy from the state indicated, you know, you're okay for 750,000 gallons, but that was initially, and that's not today. That's 30 years later almost. So that's one of the things that we're going to be looking at here in the next couple months. Once we get a proposal from them, we'll be able to work it into the schedule and see what we get from that. I think that the board is in favor of that. The other issue that was brought up is, and we've heard about is there any way to implement some sort of water conservation measures in town that would be mandatory? So we've started asking the state whether or not we can get some information from them, maybe some water conservation template that's used across the state. And I know Robbie's been put in touch with a woman who kind of handles that for large water systems. One of the problems on some of the information that came back to Robbie was that the large water systems that they're comparing us to is Portsmouth and Concord. It's a little different than what we have here, little different size systems, and certainly a lot more ability to monitor that type of program. But there are some things that she suggested that we may be able to do, and one of the things that the commissioners are going to probably throw around, because we've talked about it before, and you know, we're going to see if there's any benefit to changing the rate schedule so that you can generate more monies in the sale of water, which actually works out really well with the Main Street project because there's going to be a huge increase in the tax burden for the capital project that's on Main Street. So if we could bring in more revenues through charging more for water, then we may be able to offset that tax burden, put more on the user and less on the taxpayer. I don't know, you know, that was one of the suggestions. You could use that type of process to maybe be able to see if it has any effect on people for water conservation. I don't know the answer to that, and I don't, you know, I'm not going to play a guessing game with it. We can try it. You know, that's the thing with the water conservation, though. You know, I mean, Cotton mentioned it when she was here at that meeting, and I've had other people mention it to us, is it's the type of thing that you will implement, but you can't be riding around banging on doors all the time either. We don't have the horsepower for something like that, to have people out there. We have people doing their jobs now, and they're plenty busy. You know, I think anything that goes forward would probably have to be on an honor system basis or a shame on you basis type of thing. And our understanding from the state is that that's how some of those operate.
Yeah.
Is there, you know, it's just a bad eye looking at people saying, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing. And it's going to take, once you implement that, it's going to take a little while to be able to get some information as to whether it has any effect or not. I know we have some customers that I don't think it matters what the cost is for the water. They're going to pay for the water. Some customers need the water. I mean, it's part of their business model that they have to have it. But that's one of the things we're also looking at. We're looking to get more feedback from this woman at the state. Robbie explained to her what our situation was, and she said, let me do some digging and see what I can find out for you and make some suggestions. So I don't think any of those are poor things to look at. I think they're good things to look at.
Are you entertaining a question on this or not?
I could entertain a question, sure.
Be an entertaining question on this.
Say it again?
Never, it doesn't show, never mind. So I'm a little bit confused. So conservation, I get all that. Is that idea, that plan, is that because we need to do that because of reaching some limit, or is it because we want to make room to hook up continuing in Twin Pines?
So nothing about Twin Pines. I said that at the beginning.
That's why I said continue.
Nothing about either one of them. The conservation issue is, you know, we have been putting forward on our website all of the information for conservation that has been available to us from the state, short of implementing a conservation requirement. Those are different. I can tell you, you don't get a lot of hits on conservation on our website as it sits today. And there's been enough information fed back to us from people in general, and more recently, that I think it's worth the precinct looking at conservation measures. I don't see how it can hurt. The problem becomes some of the conservation measures require a lot of upfront money. You know, it's a lot like you hear from the Energy Commission in the town of New London. You know, you got to put money in to get money out, and what's the payback period, that type of thing. So that's all going to have to get looked at, depending on what we get. I mean, there was, you know, suggestion to us about doing monthly meter reading. I mean, are you kidding me? By the time we get done, we'd be starting over every time we turn around. We'll go to radio reading. Well, that's a lot of upfront cost for the precinct to do that. I'm not sure we're big enough to need something like that. You know, we went to twice a year reading only to help with cash flow. So, you know, up until then, we used to do a September, October reading, and that was it for the year. That kind of coincided with the upgrade in the meters and so forth. So I think the conservation issue is one that's not going to go away. I think there's going to be enough pressure from people wanting to know about what are the possibilities of conservation, what can you do, and again, I don't see any harm in it, but I need to investigate it to know more about it. And that's where we are right now. We're going to try to get as much, you know, when we left here a week and a half ago, I asked Ramsey Sousa about it, and he I had no clue. I said, you don't have any template, any information on water conservation about what other communities might be doing? He said, I don't think so. I said, well, maybe we can find somebody who does. And so he gave that name to Robbie, and Robbie's been in touch with her, and we'll see what comes out of that. So.
Are you kind of looking at building codes, at least in regards to the water percent?
Nope. That was not mentioned. I mean, most of the stuff that you purchase today is already federally mandated low-flow products. I mean, go and try to buy a real toilet today. Almost impossible. You don't get a 5-gallon flush anymore. It's all is 1.6. And, you know, so you don't really have a choice there. I think you find, if you have worked on faucets these days, every one of them has a water saver in it. And you got to work really hard to get that out. Really hard. And there's no calling the company to find out how to get it out. You have to take it apart, and you can find that little screen that's in there that limits the amount of water flowing through the fixture. So to answer your question, Jim, I'm not sure that we would go down the road of, you know, knocking on doors saying, how much water is coming out of that faucet? I don't think that's the...
Well, houses that already exist, you know, kind of sort of grandfathered. That's, though I think you have the right to go into the house, because that's in the rules, I believe. Nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to have that done.
But I don't think you're going in checking fixtures and stuff. We would normally go in and check meter.
I think you got a right to go in and say, this is what you got to be using. This is how you set it up.
But that's what I'm saying. I think most of them are all following, that's all guidelines that are set out now. I mean, you don't get to go in and order the faucet that has, you know, free-flowing rubber washer in it anymore. I don't think. I can't find them for my faucets, so. But I understand what you're saying. I don't think that's the direction. I don't have enough horses to do that. You know, I don't have an inspector to go do that. You know that.
Just a thought, I think it has come up before, is when the town gives people the opportunity to put in a deduct meter.
Yeah, so that's the sewer side of it.
So they're not getting the sewer charge, but in terms of that sewer charge having been an incentive for others, like the big users, to look at their overall usage. But it would seem to me, if I wanted to water my outdoor lawn and get, you know, use this nice drinkable water from my lawn so it's green, I could get a deduct meter, right?
Well, you would only get that for your sewer bill. The deduct meter would only affect your sewer payment on whatever bill you get from the town for your sewer. It wouldn't have anything to do with the water precinct. My point in prior meetings has been that there is no incentive for someone not to water because they're not paying on the sewer side. Now, that being said, my guess is, again, we haven't looked at it very carefully yet, but we're going to the next month or so here, and it would probably be something we would institute going into the next calendar year, is that if the way we're currently set up is you pay, I'm going to say these numbers, I'm not quite sure they're right, $55 for 10,000 gallons for each 6 months. So if you think of that, that's $5.50 per 1,000 gallons that you use of water. But your $55 covers the first 10,000 gallons that you use. So we've got Rhonda's going to look at in the next month for us to see how many services use the minimum or less. And, you know, I'll say this, I know in my own situation, because I look at all the bills, in the winter months, my winter sublets rarely use 3,000 gallons of water because they're there on the weekends. So that $55 covers the minimum and then some. In the summer months, that's not the case. You know, a lot more people using the house, so we would pay a higher price then. But the way we're set up is that you pay, I believe it's $2.20 per 1,000 over and above your 10,000 gallons that you get for the 6 months. And what we're looking at doing is increasing that fee quite a bit so that hopefully people would look at it from the perspective that, well, this is costing me money every time I use more than the minimum amount. Experience has told us, and we've seen it, that extra money is not an issue with most people. If they want the water and they feel they need it, they're willing to pay for it. But by raising that fee, I mean, our thought is to possibly go to, if you said it's $5.50 per thousand for that first 10,000 gallons in your 6-month fee, if we went from the $220 to $550, you'd be paying the same amount of money no matter what going forward. I got a feeling that's going to have some pushback from maybe some of the businesses in town that, that use a fair amount of water. I don't know that for sure. But we're willing to look at that and go down and possibly go down that road. That's one of the things that we're thinking about. And that was suggested by the state, that maybe you want to reevaluate your rates and see if there's a way to do it to de-incentivize people from using water. I don't know.
These two topics. Backtracking on Barrett Road, and it's good to hear the water is fine for using it, but clearly there is some material in it that is discoloring it. So is the state obligated to isolate what's in it?
No, the state's not obligated.
So
The state's not obligated. They're in this situation, their capacity is to advise us what to do. So their advice, after speaking with them, was to give it some time and let the polyorthophosphate that we put in at the pump station get back into that system and recoat those pipes, because what you're seeing is, or tasting and smelling maybe, is the water is taking the metal and putting it into solution. So that's why we do lead and copper testing in older homes, because sometimes if you're not using the polyorthophosphate correctly, it'll leach that lead and copper into the water stream. So right now what they've said is we need to give it some time, maybe a few weeks, and see where we're at, in a few weeks. Give that polyortho a chance to work its way back into that system. Because like I said, over the summer months, I know that main got scoured pretty hard. I mean, our water flow between the two tanks usually went through a 10-inch water main. Well, we had a 6-inch water main on Main Street all summer. So that water is going to take the path of least resistance, and Barrett Road was one of those paths.
Barrett Road became the main artery for the summer months.
Yeah. And it's a 6-inch main. It's on the small side, and it doesn't take much to stir it up and scour it.
And you saw the small-sized temporary water mains they had. So all the water that normally would run down Main Street couldn't go down Main Street anymore. So it had to go somewhere else. And Barrett Road, as he said, is parallel to Main Street and least resistance.
Yeah. And it was also discussed that if it doesn't correct itself in the next few weeks, that we go and randomly pick out some houses out there and take some lead and copper samples and see what we're looking at. Yeah.
Completely different topic. So, from my being somebody who attends other meetings, so I thought I heard in the past that Clark and Esopon were going to be pursued even within this calendar year for research on it being a potential source. Is that still progressing, or have other things kind of prioritized above it?
No, other things haven't prioritized above it. I think that the path of least resistance is to make sure to find out what I said earlier, whether or not Colby Point is a viable place to spend money. That place makes a heck of a lot more sense than going somewhere where you have no water mains, no access, no knowledge of what's even there. As I said, when Dan from Emery and Garrett, he had this big paintbrush and he just did this, said, that's where I'd look for water. No field work, nothing. That's where I'd look for water. So it makes sense to find out if there's any capacity, more capacity that we can get out of Colby Point. We've got pipelines there. We've got pumps there. We have everything there. We may not have everything we need on Colby Point, but if, there's only one way to find out, and that's to move forward with that.
Okay, so as I heard, you had already done phase one, and the next step was phase two, or you
Well, we
took phase two? Or?
What you heard was that we were going to raise money through a warrant article to look at going to the next level with a deep water well. Okay, that was, to get the warrant article passed, you had to have some explanation for it. Now, that article, if you read the article, does not lapse for 3 years. So there's a big window there. We didn't anticipate we were going to spend it yesterday. So it doesn't lapse probably until 26 or 27. So there's some time there. And that money's probably, unless we raise more money this year for it, some of that could be used to evaluate Colby Point. I mean, it's all in the same picture. Okay?
Last question? So,
That's 3 now. You said 2.
sorry.
Go ahead.
So I know you brought up in the past talking to the town and the selectmen about how they could potentially help in financing and helping out the water precinct. And as of late, they're actually listening. But they say now the ball's back in your court.
Well, it should be in our court. Janet said that at the last meeting she was at. That makes all the sense in the world. I can't very well go to the selectmen with an empty plate and say, I need something on this plate. I mean, I got to have something to go forward with. And I would anticipate that this board will have some suggestions and a meeting, at a selectmen's meeting probably, where we can give you some ideas as to which direction we're headed and our thoughts on how the town might want to try to participate in that. I mean, that's what I got right now. I don't have anything.
I didn't know if you had some ideas already. That's why I was just.
Well,
It doesn't sound like you're ready to start.
but I don't know what to go to the town with right now. I don't have, we just said, I don't have Colby Point figured out. We know there's maybe well water somewhere. I don't have that either. I mean, everything doesn't happen overnight. I'm sorry. Well, a lot of people think it does. It's not overnight. It takes a little bit of time. You know, and I said before at a meeting with Adam Ricker, and he'll remember that, we talked about getting another water source, and Robbie asked him how long do you think a water source takes to redevelop or develop? And Adam said 2 to 3 years, and Rob said, well, 6 to 8 is a little bit more realistic. I think Adam was a little surprised with that. It's just not something that happens. There's a lot of regulatory issues you have to deal with. And I can guarantee you there'll be regulatory issues if we end up down by Massapon. I mean, because there are issues with the water there. We already know that. Because there's people that have wells there that have those issues already. So that's where we're at, and we do fully plan on speaking with the select board. And, I mean, their answer is accurate. I mean, we haven't come to them, and they're right, they haven't. So, but you're on my list. Other questions? Anything? Go ahead.
It's come to our attention that there are people in town who have been identified as big users of water.
Okay, so let me just clarify that real quick. They weren't identified. They are the big users. Okay, so it's really easy to push a button and know who the largest consumers of water are.
Well, the follow-up question to that, Ken, is have those people been notified by the precinct as to the fact that they are high users of water as compared to the rest of the population?
So I'm not sure what your largest consumers are large, either institutional or business consumers.
All right, but I'm talking about
Residential?
residential.
We plan on asking them where all the water goes.
Okay, they have not yet been contacted.
I don't know. Have you contacted the guy? I mean, there's not a million of them. There's a couple of them, you know.
And through different conversations in town, those people have been identified. At least I've been made aware of a couple of specific people. And my question would be, if it were me, why
Well, it might be assumed that they know that when they pay their water bill. I would think. I mean, that's,
But your conversation earlier was there are some people who pay the water bill no matter what, and they don't have a basis of comparison necessarily. So they may.
well, I think I clarified that as being, most of them use it for business purposes, so they need that water to operate their business. The ones that are residential, we are going to approach and ask them. I know where it goes, I think. We're 99% sure we know where it goes. It goes on the grass. I'm almost sure of it, because it's cyclical. It's there in the September bill, but it is not there in the April bill. That would be my guess. And, you know, short of banning that, you can't ban one and not ban them all. So you got, I mean, it's kind of some guardrails there.
I'll just add something. I would just add that the big commercial users know they're big because they're also hooked up to the sewer, so they're paying through the nose on the sewer, so there's their incentive to cut. Their sewer rate is based on their water usage, so if they lower their water usage, they're gonna lower their sewer bill, so there's the built-in incentive.
I'm talking more about the rest.
No, I know, and there are, as Ken said, there are several that are big users.
And at least one has voiced the concern that nobody's talked to them about the fact that their bill is higher than normal for this area. Was the way that person put it, and they're not at their house all the time, so they, you know, there's a question. And it just prompted me to wonder, do we have enough of those high residential users that a conversation might be held? If it is in fact an irrigation system, has their rain sensor there? Are they running water throughout rainstorms and everything else, which could be the case? Or they may have a leaking irrigation head that they're unaware of.
Say it again?
They may have a leaking irrigation head that they're unaware of. Those are all possibilities, especially if people buy new and there's an existing irrigation system on the property.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at a couple of those numbers, and Robbie and I were playing with that, trying to figure out, and we've got a couple of instances. I mean, that would have to be one serious leak in order to accrue that amount of water. But without asking, I don't know. So I know it's on his bucket list to go do. So. Anything else? What do you got?
Motion to adjourn?
Don't need a motion to adjourn. I get to do that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay, we're done then. Thank you.